Good afternoon everyone and welcome back to Drinking and Reading, Coffee and Weird Tales. This is my second cup and it's 1:15 in the afternoon. You don't care. So yes, we're back to yours truly, Jack the Ripper, and we're on to part 3. So let's just get straight into it. I apologize for my garbage appearance this afternoon. I'm extremely tired. Again, you don't care. Yes. So where were we up to? So Guy and Carmody have gone to a party where they're gonna hang out with some of Carmody's fringe weirdo friends. Hollis brought a gun with him. There's some bizarre shenanigans that don't really make sense going on at the party, but I'm not sure they're quite relevant to anything. I have no idea where this story is going. Let's find out. He turned and grabbed Sir Guy by the arm, dragging him to the middle of the carpet. For a moment I thought Hollis might object, but a quick wink reassured me. He was prepared for this. It's quite the flirtatious thing going on between Carmody and Sir Guy. It's just the way it seems. Anyway, their witty banter is very, flirty. Anyway, it's our custom, Sir Guy, said Baston loudly, to subject our new friends to a little cross-examination. Just a little formality for these very formal gatherings, you understand. Are you prepared to answer questions? Sir Guy nodded and grinned. Very well, Baston muttered. Friends, I give you this bundle from Britain. Your witness. Good times. When the ribbing started, I meant to listen, but at that moment Lydia Dare saw me and dragged me off into the vestibule for one of those "darling, I waited for your call all day" routines. By the time I got rid of her and went back, the impromptu quiz session was in full swing. From the any time of the day. From the attitude of the crowd, I gathered that Sir Guy was doing all right for himself. Then Baston himself interjected a question that upset the apple cart. And what, may I ask, brings you to our midst tonight? What is your mission, O walrus? I'm looking for Jack the Ripper. Nobody laughed. Perhaps it struck them all the way it did me. I glanced at my neighbours and began to wonder. Laverne Gonister, Jaime Kralik, harmless. Dick Poole, Nadia Villanov, Johnny Odcutt and his wife, Barclay Melton, Lydia Dare, all harmless. But what a forced smile on Dick Poole's face, and that sly, self-conscious smirk on Barclay Melton wore. Oh, it was absurd, I grant you, but for the first time I saw these people in a new light. I wondered about their lives, their secret lives beyond the scenes of parties. When a psychiatrist wonders for the first... Yeah. Really? Yeah, okay. How many of them were playing a part, concealing something? Who here could worship Hecate and grant that horrid goddess the dark boon of blood? Hecate? Who's Hecate? Anyway. Even Lester Barton might be masquerading. The mood was upon us all for a moment. I saw questions flicker in the circle of eyes around the room. Sir Guy stood there, and I could swear he was fully conscious of the situation he'd created. And enjoyed it. I wondered idly just what was really wrong with him. Why he had this odd fixation concerning Jack the Ripper. Maybe he was hiding secrets too. Baston... Where? What? Baston, as usual, broke the mood. He burlesqued it. Okay. The walrus isn't kidding, friends, he said. He slapped Sir Guy on the back and put his arm around him as he orated. Our English cousin is really on the trail of The fabulous Jack the Ripper. You all remember the Jack the Ripper, I presume? Quite a culprit, no, quite a cut-up. In the old days, as I recall, really had some ripping good times when he went out on a tear. The walrus has some ideas that the Ripper is still alive, probably prowling around Chicago with a Boy Scout knife. In fact, Baston paused impressively and shot it out in a rasping stage whisper. In fact, he has reason to believe that Jack the Ripper might even be right here in our midst tonight. There was the expected reaction of giggling and grins. Baston eyed Lydia Dare reprovingly. You girls needn't laugh, he smirked. Jack the Ripper might be a woman too, you know. Sort of a Jill the Ripper. I think I've heard that before. You mean you actually suspect one of us? Shrieked Laverne. You mean you actually suspect one of us? Shrieked Laverne Gunnister, simpering up to Sir Guy. That Jack the Ripper person disappeared ages ago, didn't he? In 1888. Yes, in 1888. Aha! Interrupted Baston. How do you know so much about it, young lady? Sounds suspicious. Watch her, Sir Guy. The lady poets have dark secrets. No, fuck no. These lady poets have dark pasts. The tension was gone, the mood was shattered, and the whole thing was beginning to degenerate into trivial party joke. The man who had played the march was eyeing the piano with a scherzo gleam in his eye that argued ill for Prokofiev. That name's really hard to pronounce. Lydia Dare was glancing at the kitchen, waiting to make a break for another drink, and Baston caught it. Then Baston caught it. Guess what? He yelled. The walrus has gun. His embracing arm had slipped and encountered the hard outline of the gun in Sir Guy's pocket. He snatched it out before Hollis had the opportunity to protest. I stared hard at Sir Guy. No. I'm sorry. My mind went straight to the gutter. I'm going to bring it back out. Anyway, I stared hard at Sir Guy, wondering if this thing had carried far enough, but he flicked a wink my way, and I remembered he had told me not to be alarmed. Times were different. So I waited as Baston broached a drunken inspiration. Let's play fair with our friend the walrus, he cried. He came all the way from England to our party on his mission. If none of you is willing to confess, I suggest we give him a chance to find out the hard way. Yeah. Okay. What's up? Asked Johnny Oddcut. I'll turn out the lights for 1 minute so Guy can stand here with his gun. If anyone in this room is the Ripper, he can either run for it or take the opportunity to, well, eradicate his pursuer. Fair enough? It was even sillier than it sounds, but it caught the popular fancy. So Guy's protests went unheard, and in the ensuing babble, and before I could stride over and put in my 2 cents worth, Lester Baston had reached the light switch. Don't worry, Don't anybody move, he announced with fake solemnity. For 1 minute we will remain in darkness, perhaps at the mercy of a killer. At the end of that time, I'll turn up the lights again and look for bodies. Choose your partners, ladies and gentlemen. The lights went out. Somebody giggled. I heard footsteps in the darkness, mutterings. A hand brushed my face. The watch on my wrist ticked violently, but even louder, rising above it, I heard another thumping. The beating of my heart. Absurd. standing in the dark with a group of tipsy fools, and yet there was real terror lurking here, rustling through the velvet blackness. Jack the Ripper prowled in darkness like this, and Jack the Ripper had a knife. Jack the Ripper had a madman's brain and a madman's purpose. But Jack the Ripper was dead, dead and dust these many years, by every human law. Only there are no human laws when you feel yourself in darkness, when the darkness hides and protects and the outer mask slips off your face and you feel something welling up within you, a brooding, shapeless purpose that is bother to the darkness. Sir Guy Hollis shrieked. There was a grisly thud. Baston had the lights on. Everybody screamed. Sir Guy Hollis lay sprawl on the floor in the centre of the room. The gun was still clutched in his hand. I glanced at the faces, marvelling at the variety of expressions human beings can assume when confronting horror. It's a weird reaction. Anyway, all these faces were present in the circle. Nobody had fled, and yet Sir Guy Hollis lay there. Laverne Gonister was wailing, hiding her face. All right. Sir Guy rolled over and jumped to his feet. He was smiling. Dickhead. Just an experiment, eh? If Jack the Ripper were among those present and thought I had been murdered, he would have betrayed himself in some way when the lights went on and he saw me lying there. I am convinced of your individual, collective innocence. Just a gentle spoof, my friends. Hollis stared at the goggling Baston and the rest of them crowding in behind him. Shall we leave, John? He called to me. It's getting late, I think. Turning, he headed for the closet. I followed him. Nobody said a word. It was a pretty dull party after that. Yeah, you fucking ruined it, Guy. Ruined it for everyone, like a fucking party pooper. Anyway. A weird thing to do. Anyway, yes. This story is weird. Shut the fuck up. I met Sir Guy the following evening and we agreed. On the corner of 29th and South Holstead. After what had happened the night before, I was prepared for almost anything, but Sir Guy seemed matter-of-fact enough as he stood huddled against a grimy doorway and waited for me to appear. "Boo!" I said, jumping out suddenly. He smiled. Only the betraying gesture of his left hand had indicated that he'd instinctively reached for his gun when I startled him. "All ready for our wild goose chase?" I asked. "Yes," he nodded. "I'm glad that you agreed to meet me without asking questions," he told me. "It shows you trust my judgment." He took my arm and edged me along the street slowly. "It's foggy tonight, John," said Sir Guy Hollis. "Like London," I nodded. "Cold, too, for November." I nodded again and half shivered my agreement. "Curious," mused Sir Guy. "London fog and November, the place and the time for the Ripper murders." I glanced through darkness. "Let me remind you, Sir Guy, that this isn't London, but Chicago, and it isn't November 1888, it's over 50 years later." Sir Guy returned my grin, but without mirth. "I'm not so sure at that," he murmured. "Look about you. These tangled alleys and twisted streets, they're like the East End, Mitre Square, and surely they are as ancient as 50 years at least." "You're in the coloured neighbourhood of South Clark Street, sir. Did you say that?" I said shortly, "and why you dragged me down here I still don't know." "It's a hunch," Sir Guy admitted. "Just a hunch on my part, John. I wanted to wander around down here. There's the same geographical confirmation in these streets as in those counts where the Ripper roamed and slew. That's where we'll find him, John, not in the bright lights of the bohemian neighbourhood, but down here in the darkness. the darkness where he waits and crouches. Is that why you bought a gun? I asked. I was unable to keep a trace of sarcastic nervousness from my voice. All of this talk, this incessant obsession with Jack the Ripper, got on my nerves more than I cared to admit. We may need the gun, said Sir Guy gravely. We may need the gun, said Sir Guy gravely. After all, tonight is the appointed night. I sighed. We wandered on through the foggy, deserted streets. Here and there a dim light burned above a gin mill doorway. Otherwise all was darkness and shadow. Deep, gaping alleyways loomed as we proceeded down a slanting side street. Okay. We crawled through that fog, alone and silent, like two tiny maggots floundering within a shroud. Ew. But okay. When that thought hit me, I winced. The atmosphere was beginning to get me, too. If I didn't watch my step, I'd go as loony as Sir Guy. Can't you see there's not a soul around these streets? I said, tugging at his coat impatiently. He's bound to come, said Sir Guy. He'll be drawn here. This is what I've been looking for. A genus loci. An evil spot that attracts evil. Always when he slays, it's in the slums. You see, that must be one of his weaknesses. He has a fascination for squalor. Besides, the women he needs for sacrifices are more easily found in the dives and stewpots of a great city. I smiled. Well, let's go into one of the dives or stewpots, I suggested. I'm cold. Need a drink. This damn fog gets into your bones. You Britishers... It says that. You Britishers can stand it. But I like warmth and dry heat. A few more minutes. Let's just do a few more minutes. Then I'm going to eat something. We emerged from our side street and stood upon the threshold of an alley. Through the white clouds of mist ahead, I discerned a dim blue light, a naked bulb dangling from a beer sign above an alley tavern. Let's take a chance, I said. I'm beginning to shiver. Lead the way, Sir Guy said. I led him down the alley passage. We halted before the door of a dive. What are you waiting for? He asked. Just looking in, I told him. This is a tough neighbourhood, Sir Guy. Never know what you're liable to run into. And company. Some of these places resent customers like us. I'm editing because some of this is a little bit offensive and I don't want to be offensive on my channel, so that's the way it is and you're just going to have to deal with it. Good idea, John. I finished my inspection through the door glass. And looks deserted, I murmured. Let's try it. We entered the... We went... Might be time for some water. We entered... Fuck, I don't want to say that again, but I'm gonna. We entered a dingy bar. A feeble light flickered above the counter and railing, but failed to penetrate the further gloom of the back booths. A giant man lolled across the bar, a giant with proganthous jaw and ape-like torso. He scarcely stirred as we came in, but his eyes flickered and opened quite suddenly, and I knew he noted our presence as and was judging us. Evening, I said. He took a time before replying, still sizing us up. Then he grinned. Evening, gents. What's your pleasure? Gin, I said. 2 gins. It's a cold night. That's right, gents. He poured, I paid, and took the glasses over to one of the booths. We wasted no time in emptying them. The fiery liquor warmed. I went over to the bar and got the bottle. Sir Guy and I poured ourselves another drink. The big man went back into his doze, with one wary eye half opened against any sudden activity. The clock over the bar ticked on. Then... No. The wind was rising outside, tearing the shroud of fog to ragged shreds. Sir Guy and I sat in the warm booth and drank our gin. He began to talk, and the shadows crept up about us to listen. He rambled a great deal. He went over everything he had said in the office. when I had met him, just as though I hadn't heard it before. The poor devils with obsessions are like that. I listened very patiently. After a while, I got up and took another bottle of gin off the bar. The bartender nodded, took the money I offered him, and went back to dozing. I poured Sir Guy another drink, and another. Alright, we're going to leave it at that, because it's 20 minutes up, and I think I've read enough. Alright, I'm really enjoying this story. I hope you're enjoying it too. I have no idea where it's going. We're not even nearly finished yet though. There's still quite a ways to go, so that's where we're going to leave it for now. I had ideas about where it might have been going, but now that's all changed. So, yeah, that's all I have to say. Again, the writing is excellent. I'm really, really enjoying that. Robert Bloch, I can't speak highly enough. I hope you're enjoying. If you are, please subscribe and like the video. If you don't like the video, please feel free to dislike the video. I'd prefer if you didn't, but you know, do whatever you want. Obviously, yes. Thanks if you've watched till the end. Thank you for putting up with me. I hope you come back for part 4. I don't know how many parts there's going to be, but yeah, you know, we'll find out. Yes, okay. Thanks for watching.